Hello and welcome to Web3 Unpacked. Today we are speaking with Omer Amsel, Head of Web3 and Product Development at Fireblocks. Welcome.
Hey, welcome, Omer.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
So I guess we always kind of do this as our first question, but can you tell us a little more about Fireblocks, your background, and a little more about your role as head of Web3 over there?
Well, a lot to unpack. No pun intended.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hi. So my name is Omer. As you've said, I'm the head of Web3 here at Fireblocks. And maybe I'll touch briefly on my background. So I come from a very, diverse background. Started in engineering, in the renewable energy space, and then went on to do stuff around finance and funding. And then pivoted into blockchain, which is interesting way back in 2016, 2017, and then went on to do some computer vision and ML, and then came back to my personal hobby and my special interest in blockchain back in Fireblocks. And Fireblocks is at its core, Fireblocks is a wallet platform for businesses. What we do at our heart, we're an MPC wallet provider, and catering to mostly financial institutions and now Web3, which we'll probably touch upon. But basically give them the level of ease, comfort, and security to run their operations with digital assets. And also making sure that they can scale correctly, and then again, security is what we mostly care about. So making sure that we secure them. Fireblocks, I think the current number, we've already facilitated more than $3 trillion worth of digital asset transfers on our platform.
Wow.
We have,
you said 3 trillion?
Yeah.
Wow.
And more than 1,400 businesses as our customers. We've grown substantially. Company was only founded around 2018. So relatively new, relatively fast, and super interesting. And now we're diversifying both on the payments front and on the Web3 front. So that's kind of generally speaking about Fireblocks.
Awesome. Yeah. And you touched on so many little pieces in there, security and, wallets. Like, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that in general. But yeah, security is a hot topic. We have a few security experts on here and there on the show. And it's one of those things where, people hear blockchain. And if you really know about blockchain, you're like, okay, well, there's built-in peer-to-peer kind of security type of decentralized security inherently built in, but it really isn't the case. And people don't understand that, we still have 2.0 onboard, on-ramps, if you will.
Correct.
Where most of the attacks could actually happen. Can you open up a little bit more about who is exactly using, what kind of firms are using your product?
Right. So I would say, if we spoken a year ago, I would say that, around, most of our companies deal with servicing financial products. So any company, prop trading, OTC, OTC desks, private hedge funds, company that deal with digital assets, right? I mean, it can be what we call like a crypto native firm that was established and only deals with digital assets, or it could have been kind of more traditional firms that have dipping their toe in digital assets. So that was I would say the large majority. We also expanded into what we call neobanks or fintechs, right? If you think about some of these, kind of more kind of the fintech firms that offer you some sort of a banking solution, but also support digital assets, then they need an entire infrastructure in order to provide that solution, right? So if you want to, the simplest form or the simplest feature is deposit and withdraw. digital assets from these like banking or banking-like services, they need, right? They need to provision an address for that user. They need to take that crypto and do something with it, right? They might stock it up in like one omnibus account. They might do some other things with it. All that while still, the majority of their business is like on fiat rails, right? So you need this extra layer of technology to deal with digital assets, and this is what we give them, right? So everything I said is like the financial institutions, the fintechs, the neobanks. These were like up to a year ago, kind of our bread and butter, and the companies that were customers. What happened a year ago is that we decided to kind of diversify into kind of piggybacking off the entire infrastructure and the platform that we've built, but for other use cases. So those two main use cases are payments and Web3. Payments, again, we have WorldPay and PayU, which are kind of the largest payment processors in the world as our customer. And in Web3, a lot of brands, startup companies, gaming companies, when they first enter into this space, they need kind of the basic platform to allow them to do it in, I would say, as seamless as possible with their engineering, with their new engineering power that needs to kind of get accustomed to the blockchain paradigm, if you will. So yeah, these are like the diversity of the companies that we have. So I would say, I forgot to mention, by the way, banks, right? So Bank of New York Mellon, largest bank in the world, is a customer of Fireblocks and uses the Fireblocks platform as their infrastructure for digital asset support. So again, if you think about it, all over the place in a sense. Banks, trading firms, neobanks, fintechs, gaming companies, large brands, so payment processors, all of those.
Yeah, and it's easy to forget, right? So the day-to-day use that Matt and I might be using cryptocurrencies, no matter what it be on whatever platform, we're sending money to and from each other or to a service, paying gas fees, whatever we're doing. And it's one transaction, right?
Right.
So now you're dealing with transactions at scale and speed.
Correct.
And people kind of forget, like, okay, and you mentioned gaming companies, which I think is a great illustration. Because you could be on a platform paying, tipping, winning awards, collecting, and it's a very fast-paced thing. And now multiply that by thousands of users, and it becomes really dicey. I would imagine Fireblocks, the real meat and potatoes of it, if you will, the real core secret sauce is in how you guys, or the engineers, how you engineer the whole transactional processing at speed, across multiple tokens and platforms, right? It's thousands at this point. Do you guys limit or compress what you can use on the platform?
So no, I would even add that to what you said. So I think that's a fairly accurate kind of depiction into the challenges that we have for scale. But not only that, right? I mean, if you think about kind of the difference between having kind of retail processes, right? I send to someone, I connect to a DApp, I approve a transaction, I send a token, I swap a token. Even for us as kind of the users, it's cumbersome in a sense, right? But we own it, we probably understand it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. I mean, up to a point, obviously. But here you're talking with businesses that, they don't necessarily comprehend or understand. So you have to take care of more stuff other than just facilitating what they want. You need to give them all the information to make sure that they're doing the things that they meant to actually do, right? You need to put some guardrails in place, right? So maybe it's a good opportunity to kind of discuss, again, I'm probably your listeners and viewers know a little bit about MPC, but at our core, again, Fireblocks utilize our own version of MPC. It's called MPC CMP. There's a white paper, open source white paper on how it works. But kind of the gist of it is that one of the things about blockchain, and I think you kind of alluded to that at the start, is that you need a private key, and that private key basically holds, right? It's like mashing up your bank credentials and identity together, right? If someone steals your private key, or your private key is compromised, they're able to take whatever. They don't have to ask anyone, right? So it's like they gain uncontrolled access to your funds. And what MPC does is eliminates that single point of failure of actually having like one entire private key held in one location at one point in time. So it, again, very, very simplistically, when the private key is generated, it's actually generated into three parts. And those three parts sit in different locations, different machines. And when you need a transaction to sign, basically each shard of that key signs that transaction alone without telling anyone what is that specific shard. But together, the signature is the same as signing your private key. And therefore, none of the shards know exactly what the other shards are. So the private key is never whole in one place. And then you eliminate that single point of failure. And
yeah,
right?
I'm glad you brought that up, because one, that's part of security, and two, I think it's a pretty contemporary way to handle key security, right?
Right.
I've seen guys, and people, online, and even friends doing this, where you divide your keys up amongst 5 or 6 friends, and you can only unlock it you're all in the same boat and you all share different keys. So it's definitely an interesting way of handling it, for sure. Now you brought up, I think one of the biggest issues, not with Fireblocks exclusively, but pretty much any blockchain digital product, is onboarding new clients. They're interested. They maybe have colleagues or partners within their organization starting to use it for different reasons. How do you get, we call them the normies, or 2.0 folks, onboarded to, understanding the blockchain, which is hard enough for people, tokenization, asset management, all of this stuff. Hopefully they understand a bit of asset management before they come in, but how do you onboard them? What are the challenges?
Yeah. So I think that in and of itself is one of the challenges of Web3, right? And to be fair, these are challenges faced by our customers, right? So our customers, we are a B2B SaaS platform, right? So we sell to businesses. And those businesses, right, specifically in the segment that I deal with, which is like the Web3. And maybe just to say how we define Web3, Web3 is very everyone's using that term. And there are a lot of interpretations for that, which is great. But as a company, we actually have to set what do we mean when we say Web3, right? So as I've said, we mostly catered to financial institutions up about a year ago. But our definition of Web3, again, internally, I'm not asking anyone to define it the way that we are, but the way we define it is basically non-financial use cases, right? So any company or product that is going out there and is not purely financial, it's not a financial instrument, it's not speculative trading, it's not yield. It might bring you, but the actual product isn't a financial product, right? So when we look at that, and this is kind of the promise of onboarding kind of the 1 billion users to blockchain, up until now we were at the financial, right? Buying Bitcoin, ETH, trading it, staking it, yield farming, DeFi strategies, things like that. Very correlates to capital markets and exchanges. Now, when we're talking about Web3, we're saying, okay, how can this technology be used to products that are not financial in nature? This is how we define Web3. That's the kind of the realm of the domain of the problems that we want to solve. And one of the biggest challenges, as you said, is like, how do we onboard, right? I mean, my parents don't know, what a wallet is. I mean, they know what a wallet is. They keep cash in it still and coins. But they don't know what a digital wallet in the blockchain manner is. And actually, it's quite cumbersome to kind of create a new wallet, right? You have to you have to install something on your machine. You have to write down the passphrase or the 12 words, and then you want some funds in it. You need to on-ramp, so you go to an exchange. You have to go through a KYC process. You have to buy with your credit card. Then you have to withdraw it from the exchange or the on-ramp service to your wallet. So that's like 100 clicks, right there and then. So the friction is large. And these companies, they don't necessarily, as we said, they don't necessarily want to offer financial product. They say, oh, we just want to give you like this experience, right? Like an NFT based experience, or like something that's embedded within our product that uses blockchain technologies, and we have to have that. So that's where it gets, I would say, interesting, right? And there are the way that we see the market currently, there are different kind of ways to think about it. I would say that from a wallet perspective, creating a wallet can be something that's very similar to in Web2, like creating a new user and having a wallet spin up for them, and basically having an on-chain presence without them kind of having to deal with like passphrases. The problem is there's always this balance of like ease of use and the liability and regulation around it, right? So if I let's say I open a wallet for you, Rich, right? And all I give you is like this very simple API interface, or like a very simple web experience, then I basically am the one that's signing the transaction on your behalf, and I'm holding the digital asset on your behalf. Do I need to be licensed or regulated, right? I mean, that because I hold the keys, I sign the transactions, so maybe I need to be regulated. On the other hand, I can say, okay, Rich, I'm provisioning a new wallet for you. I'm giving you the private key. You are the owner of your assets, right? But then like everything that I want to do, or I want you to do, you have to sign, right? You have to sign a transaction. And again, I have to put the securities around it. So I have to tell you, yeah, go write down the 12 words on a piece of paper. I have to do that, right? So it's always balancing between these two. And I think we're in a very interesting, in a very interesting position then. Kind of the next generation would be kind of combining those two. And again, honestly, I think MPC is a great way into that, to say, you know what, we're going to share, right? We're going to share the responsibility of the keys, and you're going to have, one part of it. I'm going to have another part of it. And I can also give you like backup and recovery, which are very easy to use. And then kind of have bringing it closer to the Web2 experience, while providing you, the capabilities of like Web3, of doing on-chain transactions, interactions, connecting to other applications on Web3, going on OpenSea, selling your NFT, things like that, that kind of is adjusted to where you are in like your Web3 journey as a user. So I think that's kind of the hybrid approach is the thing that we're starting to see now, and what will solve the kind of the I would say the challenge or the hurdle of onboarding users into Web3.
Yeah, I think that if I had a nickel for every time I heard, it's a user experience issue, it is. It truly is. And, I've spoken at conferences about this and to clients, and, many, many times. And it is about truly, you can make a 2.0 very easy transactional experience through this. The challenge is exactly what you laid out, Amir, is what information do you bubble up at what time? Because it's not like, oops, I gave you the wrong information. No, that needs to be spot on. And there's another layer to it going, don't forget to write this down. Put it in a secure place. Do this, do that, and it becomes pretty intense. So I think that's the sweet spot, as you pointed out, is kind of once we crack that, it's It's a much more seamless experience. And the idea of a wallet, right? It does solve a lot of problems, right? And if you were to try and do something like Fireblocks, which, you guys are engineering now, is on a regular NFT basis, going into a normal soft wallet would be a nightmare. It would absolute nightmare, logistically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can give like one example, personally. I think Reddit nailed it in like kind of where we are in like the, kind of the timeline and experience. So if you think about it, right, I mean, we all coming from the, kind of Web3 space, we know that what Reddit did with their like avatars is like, oh, it's an NFT, it's a nice NFT experience. But actually people that bought it, I'm not sure that most of them even know, like it's, there's blockchain involved, that you have a wallet, that
Right.
It's not called NFT. It's not called a wallet, it's called a vault, right? And like the only thing that tipped it off is because you have like a Polygon scanner, like a Polygon scan URL to see it on chain. But I don't think people necessarily understood, like, and they shouldn't, right? It was a smooth experience. You pay with like Apple Pay or your Google Pay. You don't have to do this whole like onboarding, on-ramping. Here's your, I don't know, 12 words type of thing. Like It was very good experience and very smooth experience, while it's still like non-custodial wallets and NFTs, right? And it's great. I mean, it was a success, right? I mean, and if you really wanted to go through the entire, like to the length of like exporting your private key and importing into like a different one, you could have done that. It's fine. Like they would allow you to do that, but like this is more for the advanced usages of that. So I think it's like really fits on where, like, it's a good kind of a example to see where we are as an industry as well, not only like how to build like products to Web3.
Yeah, it's so many times we talk to folks that are developing products, and it is almost like a 2.0, 2.5. That's what the joke is like, oh, it's 2.5.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's necessary actually to make that leap into a truly, 3.0 blockchain environment. And it's interesting because you win when the technology goes away, right? When you see the lines of code and you got to put stuff in, and to your point, 12 word keys, all this stuff, you kind of lose people. And if it's there and it works, and hey, I paid, $150, $200, $100, whatever I paid for my avatar through Reddit, great, it works. It's almost like the example, Matt, we talk about a lot is Starbucks, right? And their loyalty program, hundreds of thousands of members existing, onboarding them onto something that's not called a wallet, not called NFTs. They have their own language, which I think is, from a branding perspective, pretty smart, right? Much like Reddit was doing. And people pay with, maybe they have rewards that they're paying with, or they can just opt in. But the whole thing is like credit card, like pay with your credit card. That's what people are used to. Onboarding. I'm not going to, Binance or any other, financial exchange to do this transaction. So it just alleviates that headache. And it's interesting. I think that the challenge with some of that in the future will be, for example, using the Reddit example is like, well, I do, a friend tells me, a web savvy friend tells me, you can convert your avatar over to this platform. Well, then it goes, oh, okay, where does it live? Right. And how do I get it from the wallet? How do I so then it becomes a little bit stickier, right? Now you're really getting into the weeds of Web3. So I see that as a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I totally relate to what you're saying about like not mentioning the technology too much, right? It's like, right? It's not a good joke if you have to explain it, right? I mean, it's so it's the same way as like with blockchain, right? You know what I mean? If you need to emphasize the fact that you're using, like, I gave this example. It's not like when I go to Twitter, it's not like that tweet is brought to you by MongoDB, because this is how we kind of, save, kind of how we store the data in our databases, right? It's not really interesting in and of itself. Technology is great, but it should create seamless products, right? And seamless experiences. Once the value actually comes in, then no one cares how it's like actually built. Currently we're at the phase where, there's like a lot of POCs going on, a lot of companies internalizing, that we see that with the big brands, right? When they kind of went on this adventure, right? Even Odyssey, right, is an adventure. They're testing out the new primitives. They're testing out what it means for their business to build these types of experiences. And once they kind of get it, then they say, okay, this is how we're going to integrate that into our long-term strategy. These are the kind of technical, the tech stack that needs to be adopted in order to make that happen, and how does that integrate into our core products? So I think that's the interesting part. We're still at the, kind of everything that we're seeing in terms of like, what's out there is a lot, it gets a lot of PR, very focused around like, marketing, brand engagement, which is great. But then now that's kind of proven, or, for some of these companies is proven, and also maybe generating new types of revenues, then, okay, so how do we take that step forward, and how do we kind of, how is that assimilated into our core offering? That's kind of, for me, the interesting part of the industry that we're seeing right now.
I have a question on that corporate element. When you're looking at companies right now, how defined are their roadmaps for Web3? Are they kind of in that exploratory phase mostly, or do you talk to people and they really have a pretty clear idea and pathway to profitability?
So it's an entire spectrum, right? I mean, it depends on how early you dipped your toe into like the blockchain pool, and you learn a lot, right? During that. So I would say that some of the conversations that we're having is that one of the key topics, or the key kind of comments that I have when engaging in these conversations is, you need to have a strategy. It's not a one and done. You don't airdrop NFTs and then see what's happening, see what would happen. What we saw, the successful ones were able to cultivate a community around that, right? And then you have a community that's engaged with your brand pretty extensively. And I think that's what's interesting, but you need to work in order to make that happen. It's just not like I'm going to airdrop NFTs and, Twitter is going to blow up, and like, I don't know, my Discord channel will blow up as well. You need to think about it as like a long-term strategy. Okay, so once I have that community up, what are the benefits that I give my community? How do I let them decide what would be the benefits, right? How do I involve them in the decision making and shape it the way that they want it to be shaped? So it's a lot of like community driven, and it needs to be strategized. It's not like, oh, we're going to take this studio and then they'll, create those NFTs and, that's it. Basically, we'll just, have an airdrop site and people would mint to their wallet and let's see how it rolls. That's not the way to go about it. And to your question, some companies are at that stage when, they're devising their strategy. Some companies are already later down that, are already further down that path where they have a clear strategy. It might work, it might not, but they see how in 5 years, this will be embedded within their like core product offering. So again, an entire spectrum of companies and the way they feel about it.
Yeah, Amir, we talk a lot about this exact thing, where and I've done it personally, like, getting used to like mining. I did mining back in 2017. I was buying, trading and buying. Now it's like about, okay, now we're using products. Now we're minting NFTs. Now we're doing this, that, and the other thing. And you just can't knee jerk and shoot something out. Like if it's a graphic NFT that's a piece of artwork, great, have fun with it, do your experimenting. But when you're talking about real business applications, or even just simple communications and marketing in Web3, right? We learned this lesson quite a bit. We set up a DAO, like to your point, how do you manage the community once you have one? What are you offering them, and how do you allow them to have a voice within that community? So we spun up a DAO. We have member NFTs. We have a whole bunch of different things that we're going to be airdropping to you and to other members of the of our organization or Web3 Unpacked. And it's not, we pull back because we're like, you know what? There's a bigger strategy here, and as soon as you open that one door, 5 others open up. And you have to really, okay, now how are we communicating? What rights are we giving on our Discord channel? Most importantly, what are we offering, right? Is there a place to be inspired or learn, or download white papers, or thought leadership, or better technology and business management? These are all things that people don't understand. And on top of that, we find organizations or business owners like yourself who are having to communicate to their team that yes, because just because it's on a blockchain doesn't mean it's fully automated. It's not AI driven just yet. It's not full on process automation just yet. You need a team to manage your social, do audience outreach and engagement. You need to have communications, marketing, advertising, all of this stuff that goes with any other product. You need it, and people think it's some kind of magic bullet, and it's not. It's not.
I agree. By the way, that's why I think this is actually a very interesting time to be in this industry, because what we saw in 2021 was coupling that with the kind of the late 2021, early 2022, there was a bull market. NFT were booming, and there was this sense of urgency to get things out to the market because you felt like everything goes right. I mean, every collection, every drop is picked up, trading, volume, appreciation. So you say, okay, I want to be part of that. Now, when the market is maybe slightly picking up again, but for the last 6 months we were in a bearish market, then companies now have time to think without the stress of. So we kind of established. We established or validated some hypotheses that we had around what would Web3 mean to our business, right? We had that sense of urgency. We learned a lot. Now we can kind of take a deep breath, go back to the drawing board, and see how we can devise a strategy that will carry us to the next bull market, or we will be able to capitalize and really think about what we want to do. That's why I think we're, at least in that aspect, we're in a kind of a good market condition right now, because there's not much urgency to kind of go out and do something. So for me, it's interesting because these now, small companies, medium-sized companies, big companies, enterprises, conglomerates, they're all thinking about how to incorporate Web3 into their offering. Now, they might choose not to do so, but they're all thinking about it. And when they're thinking about it, say, okay, how is this a long-term thing and not just airdropping something? And they have the time and they have kind of the leisure to kind of explore that currently because there's not much market urgency into that. So I think that's why it's very interesting to be in this space right now. And we see a lot of companies coming in, building solutions, as opposed to the last bear market where you felt like everyone's this isn't going to work. And, I'm out. Thanks, everyone. Now it's more okay, yes, there's a downturn. How do we take advantage of that? Right? That's the kind of line of thought. How the next one is going to come, the next bull market, the next hype. how are we better preparing ourselves for that? How are we building long-lasting and sustainable solutions? And how do we, what's the new business that I'm going to build as an entrepreneur that will cater this industry? Because there's a wide, I would say, wide-ish a common belief that this will pick up, and this is a long-lasting technology.
Yeah, I think you hit it, Amir. We even say it in just regular 2.0 normal finance world, or even agency worlds, creative, whatever it may be, when things dip, that's the time to go to work. That's the time. We talk with as you can imagine, so many protocols, so many people building really smart applications and OS, operating systems and all that stuff for Web3. And, after the past year, which was like crater size, planet size, craters hitting a small budding industry like Web3, it was kind of devastating. And a lot of people, had their heads, hung low. But others that really understand this space and have a little bit of legacy and time in the space, nope. We're pushing forward. This is the time to actually grab up some really interesting talent and resources and get to work and staying positive to it, because there will, to your point, there will be another bull market. And I think bull market or not, it is the time to kind of hit the gas, right? So
100%.
It's a very good point.
100%. Agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I guess right now we're sort of at this, like you were saying, with the last bear run, I feel like we've now had sort of legitimacy at this point. Is there anything you think that we're not noticing that we should be aware of? Any kind of, like, are we too in our own bubble in this field? Is there anything that, like, quote, normies might be seeing that we're not seeing, those of us who are working closer in Web3?
Yeah. I've lost all objectivity to that, right?
Yes.
I mean, like I'm heads deep into like the blockchain pool, and like it's hard for me. I see why, right? I see, I'm always willing to kind of debate and accept the general criticism about blockchain, but I do have, there's no real world use case, and it's like it's all hype. I mean, these are the same things that we heard back when the internet was still a thing. And I don't want to run always to that, like, drawing parallels to kind of the Web 2 and clouds, kind of cloud revolution. But I wish that there are things, I believe in it, that in the sense that it's too late to for this the train to stop and to halt. And it's been demonstrated over and over again. Like there's this meme of like the tombstone with Bitcoin is dead, and then it's like 2011 scratched out, 2013 scratched out, 2015 scratched out, right? I mean, it's like, so it's always like everyone's like quick to kind of bury it and like in the blockchain, but for me, as I've said, it's a new digital primitive and a new technology stack that will not go away, right? So for me, I'm very much bought on the ideas of blockchain. I think we will see some of the regulations come in, right? We have MiCA in Europe, and we have the SEC kind of trying to establish that. And obviously there are good sides and bad sides to it, and it needs to be done responsibly. And make sure that they take care of the things that need to be taken care of. I think some of the recent kind of the recent events that happened actually more attest to like why centralized finance is not a good idea, and not necessarily why decentralized is a bad idea. But it's hard, right? Even to my friends who are very, kind of tech savvy, it took me like at least an hour to explain why they should decouple like blockchain technologies and crypto from the FTX ordeal, right? It takes time, because from a marketing branding perspective, they are tied together because these companies, right, they go out and say crypto, buy crypto, do crypto, and like, you know, they tie themselves up to the technology, but they employ practices that are centralized. And so I think, like, again, as I said, there are a lot of negativity around it. But for me, again, as I've said, I think it's too late, right? And it will come.
That was a great irony too, right? With FTX. I mean, we were trusting our money with one, not me specifically, but we were trusting our money with one person in the ultimate centralized scenario in this effort to decentralize. So it is something to be mindful of.
Well, yeah, FTX, I mean, to your point, Amir, FTX was basically the Uber use case for Web3 and blockchain. People are like, as you were mentioning, like they poo-poo cryptocurrency, and I'm surprised you actually, communicated to your friends in only 1 hour, because it's how hard it is, friends, relatives, colleagues, engineers. Sometimes it's very difficult to explain that what FTX was doing was not cryptocurrency. It was just, it was a Ponzi scheme it was a casino built on top of a Ponzi scheme, right? That's all it was. It was 2.0, old school Wall Street shenanigans and tactics, amplified on the blockchain. Yep. That's it. That is it. I think the language and the narrative needs to change, where it's, centralized first, decentralized. Let's understand that first and foremost, because if you don't understand that, you're going to step into some trouble. You're going to get yourself into trouble and or lose all of your money like that. And then the other thing is, what does it really mean to be trustless, right? And the idea of why we're doing this is so that, one, there's no third-party intermediaries that can dip their hands into your stash, or your stack, I should say. And two, it is, bringing peer-to-peer trustless environments to the forefront. To me, just the whole idea of being trustless and not having to do, this, that, or the other thing, have intermediaries or third-party software validating things. It is validated on the blockchain, and you can trust the machine. The human is taken out of it, right?
Yeah. You actually, the point is that you don't have to trust it. That's just how it works,
exactly.
Right? I mean,
we're trusting in machines, not humans, right?
So I think it goes back kind of to what we kind of discussed at the top of the call. Is like, maybe, and again, this is just, for the discussion, like, maybe our point shouldn't be, oh, look at why this technology is so great, and like the technology is great, let's defend the technology and let's go out. Yeah. Let's just show everyone, right? Let's just show everyone how great this could be, right? Yeah. How cross-border payments can be done, instead of like within 5 days, it can be in 5 minutes. How efficient that could be. How the fact that you can do, I always like to give that example, you can do like a unilateral co-marketing, right? If I have an NFT of Starbucks in my wallet, then I, as a local coffee shop, a shoe store, whatever, oh, you have a Starbucks NFT, then I'll give you a discount. You don't have to ask Starbucks. All you have to do is look at their wallet and say, do you have that NFT, right? I mean, so I think we should really, like, I would say, show everyone why this can be great, building great products. Like, again, and this is, as we've said, the kind of established, this is the time to build. And I think, keeping your heads down, building those like great experiences, utilizing the great tech that's currently out there, and like how seamless that could be, and how easy that would be, just, kind of do some exploration, is amazing, right? And, don't listen to the naysayers, and don't spend too much time arguing. It's like, you know what? Fine, I believe in it. You don't, whatever. I'm going to build a great solution because I see the value in that technology and what it allows me to build, then I'll build it, right? So, no, I think like that's kind of the mindset that we should be that we should be at right now.
Yeah, we're big fans of show don't tell, that kind of thing. Now, Amir, this is a really interesting platform, and as we're talking and as we're digging in and learning more about Fireblocks, for me, my head is like, okay, if you're cracking DeFi, right, or finance in general, right, writing algorithms, programs, engineering for the finance world, there's so many variables, and it's more challenging than your average project. And what you guys are doing is really interesting. It takes the clutter, the chaos out of managing digital assets, and even, I guess, fiat for that matter, too. Using this model, are there other products that could spin out of Fireblocks? Because it is so interesting. And I see, wow, this could be used in so many ways. Are there plans to kind of expand?
Yeah, so I think, again, our motto is to build for scale and make sure that everything we build can be employed. And again, as I've said, like, we're diversifying, right? We built this, very popular financial institution platform. And because we were very mindful of security and scale, we built like a lot of other things into that stack. And basically the way we think is the options and to build on top of Fireblocks are endless, right? And we want to cater as much as possible. Obviously, you don't want to spread too thin, right? But because it takes dedication and support to do all of that. But basically saying, we will provide you with the tools to succeed. You can focus on building, some of these great things that you want to build without, having, I need to go and manage my own RPC nodes. I need to manage my private keys. I need to manage like my users and things like that. All of that can be facilitated. So we want to, again, we position ourselves as, the kind of the maybe like the ground level and maybe the first floor and maybe the second floor for some like specific use cases. But you can come in and use whatever you want in order to facilitate whatever it is. And as I've said, it's attested by the variety of customers that we currently have, from like the Bank of New York Mellon and, gaming startups within the Web3 space, right? They all utilize basically the same platform. So for me, the kind of the exciting and exhilarating part is to see the potential, of Web3 kind of coming to life with the tools that we provide these businesses with. So there might be spin-offs of what Fireblocks can do, but again, our as I've said, our motto is allow and enable other businesses to grow on top of Fireblocks, right? And like be there for them, see how they grow, help them, connect them, dedicate resources to them, make sure that they're successful. Because again, this is my personal opinion, but I have a lot of like-minded people here that we believe that the next big company, the next the next Google, Apple is being built right now, and probably has something to do with like blockchain and Web3 technologies, right? I mean, so that's kind of the way that we're thinking about it, and we want to be there when it happens, and we want to support them. So kind of that's kind of the way we're thinking about things.
Yeah, stay focused. I just see my mind goes, in all sorts of directions. We work with a protocol called Andromeda, the Andromeda protocol, and they're basically creating codeless drag and drop NFT contract and business applications beyond business application tools to just create automation, contracts, geolocation type of technologies baked into it. Are you guys? Is your whole experience kind of? Do you service the client? I'm sure it's a combination, but is it full service or is it, help yourself?
Self-service. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So, well, obviously, again, we're a SaaS B2B that also serve enterprises, right? So it really much depends with the client. And we try to, again, our motto is to make our customers succeed. So we dedicate as much attention as needed, even for the smaller clients, right? For instance, I spend a lot of time with the smaller client, with the small customers, right? With the smaller paying customers. Again, just from that belief of what I said, right? They're the ones that are going to grow big. Yeah. And again, right. So we have, again, our basic SaaS offering, as I've said, so the wallets, the node infrastructure, and any of that sort, which is self-serve. You can do everything on your own. But then we have professional services and solution architects that will come in and help you, architect whatever that you need. We have dedicated support. So again, there's a lot of a lot of support. Obviously, we're happy when the customer succeeds without us having to intervene, because that means that we actually built a good product, right? So again, but then we do have an entire support mechanism and people in place to help the companies succeed.
Yeah, it's good to know. And architecture is 90% of kind of getting people off the ground, and strategy, as we mentioned earlier, for sure.
Correct.
So, Omer, as we sort of wrap up, any key takeaways you would say for our listeners, and then also just curious to hear about any upcoming projects or things we should be on the lookout from Fireblocks.
Yeah, so I would go back to the point where, focus on building. I guess this is a good time. Focus on building. And again, feel free, obviously, to explore. And I think do your own research. And if you can include Fireblocks as part of that research, that'd be great. But yeah, and in terms of, so that's basically my key takeaway. And also, as Rich said, strategize. Always important. In terms of big initiatives that are rolling out, so I would say stay tuned. We have some very amazing news. Again, as I've said, we're more of we're a private company, so I'm bound by some things, but I would say we have major developments around wallet infrastructure that we're gonna announce very soon, and also enhanced security for smart contracts and tokens, which is also very exciting, very, very soon to be announced. So yeah, stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to tracking Fireblocks progress and success. I mean, I think, you guys are poised to do really well. Your heads are in the right spot. You're hard at work, and I think it's going to be a very powerful platform for financial institutions, large and small, to kind of get on board with. So kudos. It sounds really good. We want to keep tracking it. Fireblocks.com. Check them out. It's really interesting. Get in touch with them if you want to learn more about how to manage digital assets and beyond, actually. So great concept. Great conversation, Amir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rich and Matt. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we look forward to having you back for other discussions. Maybe roundtables we'll do, or something else like that. But for sure, we want to hear more about Fireblocks in the future.
Thanks.
Awesome.